So I'm recording now.
Hi, Aika. The topic of today's conversation, I would like to talk about zoom out, don't work harder or longer, but basically it's important to notice that at every level of hierarchy of any organization, there are normal people who have 24 hours a day, and they might make a little impact or a huge impact. They might be janitors, they might be CEOs, but it's not that the CEO works 100 times harder than the janitor or longer, but he might make that much more money. So let's talk about what it takes to use the time that we have in a better way so that we work in terms of transforming certain inputs into certain outputs, like every job is basically requiring. But we use different tools so that we can maybe in the same time have much more impact or make much more money, because we use leverage. We leverage work of other people, the knowledge of experts, computer systems that work 24/7, and so on, in order to get so much more done within the same time that every one of us has. What do you think about this?
Well, I think it's a great point. I think in order to be successful, you need to have capacity and you need to work hard. But it's not only about working hard. I do think it's good to work hard, but it's not only about working hard. It's also about working smart. And it is about leverage, as you said. So I think the topic, really, when you talk about zoom out, it's pretty much what I feel you're saying is leverage. How can you leverage yourself? And I do think there are two ways to leverage, two main ways. One is capital, and the other one is people. You can have other people do the work for you. Doesn't mean for you, but then you at the head, you kind of directing others. And of course, many times in order to do that, you need capital. And let's say, for example, you can invest your own money, and you can get a return of 10%, which is a great return. And if you invest 100,000, you make 10,000. But if you leverage the money of other people, and you don't have 100,000 to invest, but you then have 10 billion to invest, you make 10%, 1 billion return. For this 1 billion, of course, you have to give the majority to the people who invested, but you can get some of it for yourself, which is why investment bankers are making such a big amount of money, because the investment banks, they leverage your money. They invest not like we individual investors do, hundreds of thousands, but they invest trillions. And with these trillions, they can make a huge amount of money. So I agree. It's a lot of things really to reach the highest level of success. You really want to reach leverage. And of course, maybe one more thing you can use leverage, which is leverage technology. The reason why Alibaba, pretty much every technology company, has been so successful is because they leverage technology. Because before they were able to get to, business was able to get to a few hundred, a few thousand people. With technology now, business is able to reach millions to even billions of people, and then leverage technology to make a huge impact. So leverage technology, leverage capital, and leverage people to make a huge impact.
Yeah, I think it's very important to understand what we just said, that this is even like possible for you. And then your self-image has to reflect that as well. If you see yourself as a janitor, you will stay there. But if you see yourself as a CEO, even if you start as a janitor, after some months, you will, take some steps to actually learn more and advance in your career, for example. And one of those leverage points might be, for example, MBA studies as well, because that's where they teach you how to have this global kind of perspective overview of the organization of a business, how to understand in detail all of those components, all of the stakeholders' expectations, all the departments, marketing, finance, all of that, so that you can make informed decisions and also look at the organization as like an organism. So you see what's outside of the organization, what's inside. You take all of this information in, and then you make certain decisions and kind of give some sort of feedback to everyone around you to steer the organization so that it fits the current market condition. It takes opportunities and it utilizes those opportunities that appear, and it's protecting itself against certain dangers that are out there as well. So I think it's very interesting because you start treating the organization almost like as a body, as one unit, and you think in such a zoomed out level, whereas normally people just focus on their very narrow area of expertise, and this guy does, I don't know, front-end development, and that's all he knows. Mm-hmm. And from there, he has no power to actually leverage people, systems, and everything, and combine all of it into one unit that's going to be producing some amazing results.
Yes, I agree. Of course, most of us human beings, most of us are working in a specific capacity, doing a specific job. And I would say that there are not so many people that have the possibility to zoom out. Because if you have a hierarchy, by definition, most people are at the bottom and only some people at the top. And then you also have a lot of small businesses where even if you are at the top, you still cannot zoom out. And I would say that there are two kinds of advice we have to give. One is for the employees to, when they go up the hierarchies, to know that you have to zoom out, which means you have to care less about the details of how things are being done, and you have to be better in using the leverages which you have, which mainly means how do you deal with people, how do you manage people. That's one of the things that Michael Gerber brought up in his book, very famous book, The E-Myth, where he talks about that many times it's better for entrepreneurs to do businesses in areas where they don't have the skill. Because if they don't have the skill, let's say, for example, a truck driver does a barbershop, or a barber does a truck driving company. They don't know how to do this, which means they zoom out automatically because they can't focus on the detail because they don't know the detail. So they have to focus out. They're focusing out. They're much better in people management and kind of seeing the broad picture. But one thing is the employee level, and the other thing is the entrepreneurial level. And I think for the entrepreneur level, it's important for those people who work on the small businesses to see that maybe that it's important for them to think about how they can get leverage. If you're working on a restaurant, or you're working on, let's say, a small store, in an offline store, it's hard to have leverage because technology is not available. That's why capital is also not available, because people don't want to invest in offline things. And that's why it's even going to be difficult to hire a lot of people. So it's kind of slow business, and it's kind of hard to zoom out. You need to really grind it through and do a lot of things at the beginning yourself. What I think is possible for technology entrepreneurs like yourself and like myself, it's possible to zoom out, but then you need to really have a business mindset. It's not about yourself building the code, yourself making the decisions, but really trying to attract capital in order to attract the best people, in order to build a business where you are kind of on the CEO on the top level, but you no longer take care of the details.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Also, like personality types that might be perfect for being that CEO of a big company, right? Like some extroverted judges, for example, would be perfect for the job. So
judges, why judges?
Because they're organized, they're planning everything, they know all the details, right? They're not like wishy-washy, spontaneous, creative, whatever.
But maybe they're not the visionary. Maybe you want to have a visionary at the top.
Maybe, but extroverts for sure. If you want
yes, there is the difference between a leader and a manager, and the leader is more the vision, and the manager is more the organization.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's important to be a leader.
It's fascinating to have also this kind of army, like prime ministers have, for example. On one hand, their cabinet of ministers, these people are responsible for everything that happens, so they could like almost deal with this without the prime minister. Whereas also there are advisory boards to prime ministers and so on. So people at this level, they don't solve problems themselves. They call experts and they tell them, okay, prepare me a report on how to solve this problem. go check some benchmarks from other countries, this and that, and get the smartest people to solve this. And they have meetings all the time with people being like that, like, okay, you guys tackle this and you tackle this and get these people there. And so they don't do any work themselves, but they just kind of almost like playing chess and setting the strategic direction, but not doing the work themselves. And I think this is a big misconception, I guess, from people who are just specialized. They cannot imagine that there could be a job that's just about talking. It's just like meeting people and talking, and there's no like actual labor involved, because the labor is in the head, and you just apply the right experts to right problems and maybe push them hard, like Steve Jobs was pushing his teams, or Elon Musk is pushing his teams. So Elon Musk goes in depth as well, which I actually appreciate about him. But
correct, yeah, Elon Musk goes in depth as well. Very unusual. Because he's saying that he's into engineering. Mark Zuckerberg as well says that he's still programming on Facebook, and even Steve Jobs was saying that he was involved in design decisions. So there are 3 examples of people that actually are not only zooming out, they're also zooming in. I guess in certain parts where they feel it is required. But of course, I think for me, it was a big learning that in a big learning, kind of an adjustment from the academic world. In the academic world, it's not about zooming out. Everything you do, all the success, it's you yourself who has to accomplish it. You can't say, oh, I'm going to hire my secretary to do my homework for me. No, I'm going to cooperate with my teammates, my classmates, in order to get the exam done. No, it's called cheating. You can't be cheating, and so you have to do your homework yourself. You can't cooperate with other people to get the exam done. But in business, the rules are different. There, it's all about getting other people involved to cooperate with you and outsourcing to the right people. And so I remember how frustrating it was for me when I was working on a business with my own financing and trying to do everything myself: the design, the wireframes, the function, the specs, even parts of the coding, and the marketing, of course, while other people just went out to investors, leveraged the capital, they got a great team, leveraged the people, leveraged the technology, and they were more successful than I was. And I thought, but that's so unfair, because they have other people, they have the capital, they can get the best people, and I have to do everything myself. It's so unfair. But that's how the market is. That's the rule of the market. So you need to adjust. It's not about doing everything yourself. That's the academic. That's how university and school, that's how it works. That doesn't apply in the market. In the market, it's just about getting the stuff done. You don't have to do it yourself. In fact, maybe it's best if you don't do anything yourself. And maybe you're just the CEO of a company and you get a lot of credit, even though all the work is in fact done by other people. And you're not financing yourself, but investors are financing itself. So you get the money from the investors to pay other experts to do a great job. And you're just sitting there and you actually don't have to do much.
Yeah, that could work. But I have counterexamples from my business, because I have the same team for the last 10 years. Like basically no one left, no one joined, which is very unique in context of corporations. And I'm competing against companies that got a lot of funding from the EU, and they run a corporate structure. So they have separate experts for, advertising online and product creation and this and that. And what happens is that for lack of coordination, because also those experts are there for like a year and a half, and then there is a new guy who used to advertise tires online, and now he's advertising English courses, you know what I mean? And he doesn't know the product and he doesn't know the market. He knows how to do AdWords, but that's not enough. And they compete against me, who has like 10 years of experience in advertising this product in this market and analyzing all of this stuff. And they have no chance, because the rotation of the employees and so on, and because also the products are not designed with marketing in mind, like with the customer in mind. They are designed by experts who are linguists, who actually don't have much idea what it is to be a beginner in the language, who doesn't have time to learn, and what challenges those people are facing, and so on. So they design for some idealistic scenario where you have unlimited time, you can learn all the nonsense, not needed words. You just like enjoy learning for the fact of learning, right? Whereas the reality of the customer is very different. So I see that they cannot get the edge with those teams of quote unquote experts that are narrowly, focused on their own expertise and they don't understand the big picture. And if you have badly designed product, and if you have some random expert on AdWords or whatever, their results are not as good. So the integrated approach, it's almost like...
But you're saying that it doesn't work, it might not work if you as a CEO zoom out and leave it to the experts, because then the experts, they are only zoomed in, but they don't understand, see the whole picture. So yes, while it's good for you to zoom out, you also want to make sure if you do zoom out and you have employees working, that these employees also are a little bit zoomed out or have a broader perspective, or not just some experts in a certain area.
It's really hard, I think, to coordinate and to make them see the whole picture when they are specialized in just one little thing. So there is a disadvantage to that approach as well. And also the rotation of people, you know, someone works there for 6 months and then someone else comes and they start from scratch and they've never worked in this industry. And it's really hard to replace the person potentially. So they have no marketing for 6 months or whatever. So basically, there is something to be said about having a lot of experience in this particular thing and seeing it as a whole. And I've tested so many different things over the years, for example, whereas this new marketing person comes in this competing company and they test stuff that 3 years ago other guy tested and it didn't work, but they don't even know that this was happening because they weren't there. So it's hard to, I don't know, I think it's hard for them to compete in the end. And they are selling the product that's not designed with the customer in mind, so they are kind of lost from the get-go.
I do agree that what you're mentioning, that there's a balance between zooming out and not zooming out, taking a hands-on approach. I know from my own experience that I had this learning that I was describing where I felt, wow, it's so much better to just zoom out, because you don't want to compete yourself and as an individual against a whole team of people. So what you need to do is you need to raise money, and then you need to hire the best team, leave a lot of responsibility to the team, and kind of step out and let the team make the important decisions. So I did that for one company, and I did face some. I did have to go against some of the advisors who were telling me, no, you're stepping out too early. You shouldn't do that. And in fact, they were right. It turned out they were right. I was stepping out too early, and I was just saying, okay, you should get to the employees. You're getting good money. You're getting a lot of responsibilities. Make the right decisions. I'm going to be here to support you, but I take a high management level, and I don't want to be involved in the nitty-gritty of the business. And it was in a very early stage where we just had finished the product, had a little initial traction. And it was important to have somebody who's really passionate and smart, knows the market, to get in there and fix things. And it wasn't enough to just hire employees. Basically, we, together with employees, I would say, we had too much, we wasted the money, basically, and mainly on the employee salary. So the company went bankrupt. And that was a lesson to me, because I wanted to zoom out, thinking about the leverage I could have, just building a business, building a real business with real employees, and having the leverage of people, of capital, and of technology. But it didn't work. And before, I'd always built businesses hands-on. I was the product guy. I was very much involved in the product. Everything was going to be coordinated by me. Then I did another approach, and that failed. So I think there's a balance between, on the one hand, you do want to zoom out, and on the other hand, you want to take a hands-on approach.
Yes, you cannot zoom out too fast or too much. You have to still control your core competencies, basically. Because I think also, if you, let's say, hire some guy to do your online advertising, he doesn't necessarily have an incentive to do the best job, because he's going to get the same salary regardless. So he's not participating in the profits. So it's like, yeah, whatever. And another paradox is you cannot hire the best internet marketers. It's a catch-22, right? If the guy is not that good, he will agree to work for someone for a salary because he cannot do it on his own. Whereas if he's top-notch, he's the best, he doesn't need your job. he can make as much money as he wants, selling other people's products as affiliates, creating his own products, doing whatever he wants, because he knows how to sell stuff online, and that skill makes him unemployable because he generates his own income on his own terms. So you can only hire people who are not that great, I think, and who are very narrowly focused and who just got the certifications from Google, Google Analytics, Google AdWords, blah, blah, blah. They know what Google wants them to know, but they don't know those things, like those secrets, those tricks that people who make a lot of money use to maybe game the system a little bit or to gain advantage, right? Because they just know like the regular stuff. Like if you just went to the university to study marketing, you just know the theory, the basics, but you don't know the secrets, how to use Instagram in right now, to gain leverage, because in 6 months, Instagram will block this feature and it's going to be impossible or something like that. And those are the sources of advantage usually in the marketplace.
Right. If it's your own product, you have not only the incentive to work hard, but you also have a certain creativity. You get these creative ideas while you're under the shower because you're thinking about it all the time, and these great ideas pop up, which differentiate you, which make it give you a competitive advantage. While somebody who's hired is just going to do pretty much the standard. Yes, I guess to some extent it depends on the people you hire as well, because I remember that I was working as a consultant as well for other startups, and I treated it, after some time, I treated it kind of like my own business. I didn't really make a difference between my own businesses, where I was the majority owner, or where I was only a very small shareholder. And so I think in my case, I would be a really good employee as a consultant, or as whatever, marketer or product manager working on a startup. And I would bring in, and I would work similarly as if I was the owner of the company. But I guess it's hard to find these people. Because most people, it's kind of like also an entrepreneurial attitude, some like a maverick. You're looking out for these things where you can do something different from the rest.
Yes, and maybe your manager doesn't like it because maybe it's undermining his position, and maybe you will take over his job. So at certain level in organizations, I was actually listening to this audiobook about how Netflix was created, and they were saying very interesting things about the fact that when organization gets to a certain size, people start paying more attention to politics and to looking good for promotion than to actually creating great product for customers. Depending also on how you decide about promotions. Is it a flat structure? Is it a very hierarchical structure? Does the manager decide about your promotion, or does like the whole team that's like more impartial decide about it? Basically, there are certain factors that might prevent this disease of organizations where everyone is just trying to like look good, get the promotion, stab others in the back, politics, basically, politics in the organization. So instead of looking out for like the best for the company, they're looking for the best for themselves, and it's destroying organizations. Wrong incentives, for example, wrong focus. Very hierarchical structures where you need to be the favorite person of the manager. So you start, I don't know, giving him compliments and being very nice and like saying bad things about other employees or whatever, right? So there are a lot of dangers in organizations, and there are a lot of factors we can change, how we compensate people, how we promote people, so that they focus on the good of the company rather than on getting their egos and titles and salaries higher and getting the promotion.
Okay, yes, I agree. So let's summarize that it is difficult to create these entrepreneurial types that have a big view and that can make a similar kind of success as the entrepreneur himself in a corporation or even in a small team. Since that's difficult to find and to create, sometimes it makes sense to be the hands-on person if you're the entrepreneur. At least you don't want to leave the organization kind of to control of your organization too early on. And you want to make sure that these people that take care of this in a similar way that you are and have the same capacity, these are there. If not, you cannot zoom out. So while it's important to zoom out by leveraging technology, leveraging capital, and leveraging people, you cannot just zoom out and make a business plan, get capital, hire people, and expect everything to work out completely. That's the wrong approach as well. You need to make sure that at least the people that are in place that have this kind of attitude, that are real entrepreneurs, that really take care and that are really passionate about the product. In my case, in the example I gave, that was not the case. I did give everybody a good salary. I did give everybody good shares, like a large part of the company. I gave away to the team, and I said, everybody of you is an entrepreneur. I gave a lot of space, but if people get shares, get responsibility, get money, it's not going to make a difference unless they really have the passion inside of themselves as entrepreneurs, and they're also passionate about the product.
Yeah, and I think the organization cannot really outsource its core competencies to the point where I think the CEO, like for example Elon Musk, is very involved in the real technical stuff as well, and I think it gains him a lot of credibility also among his employees, right? He's not the clueless guy who I don't know, knows how to sell Pepsi but doesn't know anything about cars and he's doing a car. Then they wouldn't respect him. But if he knows everything that needs to be known about these things and he can make those decisions, that's great as well. And that's their core competency, right? And Steve Jobs was also making those design decisions because he was strong at that. This was his talent. He was doing it better than others. So sometimes you can outsource things that are not essential to your success, but you shouldn't outsource even that much, being detached from what your employees are doing in core competencies, what really makes your business, like marketing. I don't think anyone should outsource marketing, because if you just hire random people to do random marketing for you who have no idea about your product, your customers, your market, literally it takes years to learn all of this stuff about your particular business, what works for your customers, what channels work best for your type of company, what all kinds of things work, and then you have this experience. But if you get the person and after 2 years, after they reach this level of competency, they quit and they go somewhere else, and then you're left without anyone to run your marketing, then you're very vulnerable. Because that's another thing. How vulnerable.
But it's interesting. And just to make a quick comment, I think it's interesting the vision that investors have generally on this in the US and in Europe. Particularly, I'm familiar with the German market. In the German market, the vision is the main people in the business that cannot be outsourced, need to be the founders, are the business people and the marketing people. Those are people that need to be inside the company, need to be the founders of the company. And then you can outsource the technology to other people. In the US, the vision many times is every tech guy you have in your company adds 1 million, every MBA subtracts 1 million. Meaning you don't want to have the business people, you don't want to have the marketing people, you want to have the technology people, you want to have the founders build their own product. The founders need to be the ones that build their own product, and only then can you invest in the company. And I don't think that's true. I think it depends a little bit. If you're really a tech company, like you really are into innovative tech and it's all about very complicated technology, let's say quantum computing, then maybe yes, you do want to have a tech co-founder. But if it's 99% of these startups are not really tech companies, they are businesses, and I would say probably, as you rightly said, marketing companies. Technology, anybody can program technology of Facebook, even Amazon. It's not so complicated technology. You can find these people if you pay them the right amount. You can find these people to solve these problems. But the problem is to do the right marketing. And therefore, you want to have business people and marketers to be the founders of the company, as I feel the investors in Germany rightly understand. And they just say, you outsource your tech people, and you can go to Eastern Europe or go to India for your tech. I know this one of the biggest investors in Germany. They have a tech company in Poland. And the tech company in Poland is basically employees that launch the new companies. So they make new companies with founders. They search for the founders, and then the tech company in Poland develops the products, and the founders in Germany tell the people in Poland what needs to be developed, and the founders are German business people, and the tech people are in Poland, and it's just a company. They're just employees. They don't need to be the founders because it's very clear what they need to do. There's no innovation they need to do.
Exactly. Yeah, there was this article back in the 90s, I think. It was called "IT Doesn't Matter," and basically, IT as a source of competitive advantage for most businesses is not a source of competitive advantage because every company can have that tech. As you said, like it takes a team of some programmers to create something. It's not that hard in most cases, unless it's like cutting edge AI that no one has ever seen. But now, Google gives you their AI, IBM gives you their AI, Microsoft gives you their AI. You can integrate it in your project for like close to free. So there's really no need to do so much hard stuff. It's more about finding uses for those tools in real world to solve real problems of real people.
Exactly.
And that's the business part and the marketing part. And if you don't sell it, it's not going to work. So that's a biggie. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I think in the US it's just maybe because of the tech focus. I don't know, but it's just so much focus on tech. There's 2 points of views. Like, the tech people are gods, or the tech people are just coding monkeys. My view is more like the tech people are like coding monkeys because there's so many developers. You don't need to pay them millions of dollars, and they don't need to give them large parts for the company unless they have a business mindset. If they have the business mindset, they understand the business, and they combine tech with business skills, then yes, they're very valuable. But if they're just coders, just implement what you tell them or what the product people tell them, what the customer wants, then they're just implementers. They're just doing stuff like accounting or like finance. It's just something needs to be done, but it's not something that needs to be on the founder level.
That's very true. Like, actually, when I started my business, we hired a company to write the system of learning for us. And just because I was busy on like creating the marketing and everything else. So for very little money, it's just like almost no money, like 1,400 Polish zlotys.
Oh,
nothing. Yeah. They created a system, and then I had to rewrite it 7 years later because technology changed completely. But anyway, just like it was so cheap, and they did it while we were working on other things, and they did it for one-time fee, which is kind of very nice because then you take this thing and you make your own millions with this or whatever, and they don't get the royalty for that. So you are right, it's like very outsourceable. Like audio recordings could be, or like some translation work, anything that they can do once, get the money for their time, and they can go away, and you can use this thing forever to make money. It's quite awesome. Because other people in my business are compensated based on the income of the business. So I ended up paying a huge amount of money for example, the guy who recorded our audio products, because he came and he did it for free, but for the percentage of the profits. And it turned out that over 10 years, it was a lot of profit. So he keeps on getting the complete passive income, But he took a risk that maybe we wouldn't sell that many of them. So he wouldn't be fully compensated for his time. So we started with like no risk, just getting everyone to work for free for the promise of part of the profits. But eventually, because it became successful, they ended up making like super great amounts of money.
And that makes a lot of sense, and that's also that's actually one good way. If we now come to the second part of the talk, which is how can we leverage technology, money, and people? This is one way how to do this, because one way is to get investment, so you have capital, and with the capital you can buy the people and you can get the technology. The other way is you're creative in how you compensate these people. So you want to have the best people, but you can't really afford them. So what you do is you do zero upfront payment and payment on profit. And then, yes, they're going to be earning. That's good for them as well. It's a win-win. But you don't have to at the beginning. You can leverage the best talent, but you don't have to pay upfront.
And you don't have fixed costs, because if your business went down, like, you don't owe them anything. If your business goes 50% down, they get 50% less money, and they don't complain because they know the deal. But on the other hand, if you become very successful, you will overpay them like crazy. Like, you would give them like, I don't know, $10,000 per hour of work.
Exactly. But you can only overpay them because you have been successful, and you have been successful partly because of their success of their work.
That's why it's fair in the end as well. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's kind of like just like an investor is making his own investment decisions and he's making money on that, but he can create a fund and then can profit from the other people's money. Here you're profiting from somebody else's work. Yes, of course you have to pay them back when you get successful, when you make a return, but only then do you have to pay them back money.
So that's one of the ways.
So this is one of the ways, exactly. So this is one of the ways you can do in order to, I would say as a very, on an abstract level, it's in order to kind of zoom out and to benefit from leveraging technology, capital, technology, and people. It's important that you are good communication and have communication, especially persuading skills. You need to do a nice presentation. You need to present yourself and what you already have to people, so that people feel, oh, okay, this is somebody I can trust and somebody that's going somewhere. Then those people, let's say the investor is willing to invest, or the audio recorder guy that you mentioned is willing to put in his time because he believes that, yes, you can do something.
Exactly. So you have credibility because maybe you've already had some success before. Maybe you worked with this person before on some other terms and you propose this to them and they have some spare time. So they're like, okay, I can do this and hopefully I'll make some money.
But it's especially important because the leverage, it's easy to get when you already have leverage. Let's say if you're the president of a big corporation, it's easy for you to get leverage. But if you are nobody working on a product that has no users, then it's hard for you to get this leverage. So then it's about creating something out of thin air, basically, by nice presentation, who you are, making a good impression so that other people can be convinced, even though there is nothing that they would normally, there's nothing material that you have.
Yeah, and I think also just even learning certain skills is a form of leverage. Like if you learn how to do Facebook ads, YouTube ads, by yourself, and it's not zoomed out technically, but it is, because once you do that, you can reach millions of people while you sleep and you can make a lot of money. So that's the form of leverage. So the form of leverage is not necessarily that you're removed from setting up the ads. No, you can do that. It's a fixed time commitment. It's not so much. But then this gives you the reach. The whole market is within your reach and you can profit from each interaction that you have with those potential customers. So sometimes actually putting your head down and like learning certain things allows you to also then set up things once and then they leverage your time and money.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So leverage by knowledge in addition to leverage by technology, capital, and people.
And even like if you wanted to hire programmers, I think it really helps to be one first, so that you can tell them, I need like a really simple project. Like it's gonna take you like no time, and you specify what you need, but like they know that you know what you're talking about, so they're not gonna quote you like 10 times more money. It's almost like the conversations I was having with this company that designed our system was like, oh, we need like a really simple thing, like, you know, just this, and then some login to this. It's like this is gonna take you like a weekend, whatever. And then they might feel also like they shouldn't pretend that it's hard. And they're like, oh yeah, that's gonna cost just like this much. It's not a problem. Like everyone's like downplaying this.
Mm-hmm.
And we did get very basic version. It was like minimal viable product. I didn't want like too many features at first, just to test the idea. But still, like if you can talk to programmers in their language, they know that you know what's going on, that you could potentially write it yourself if you had more time. They will not cheat you out of your money as well. So that helps, I think. And that's the Elon Musk way. Like he can hire those engineers, but he watches and he knows what they're doing and he can understand.
Yeah, that. But I mean, then of course you are not, I mean, this is not the very much zoomed out. There are ways to be zoomed out even more, because you're still saying, well, you should get a certain knowledge in terms of Facebook marketing, you should get a certain knowledge in terms of programming. That's, I mean, of course you're hiring other people, but it's still, you have to be an expert or you have to know something in these areas. Mm-hmm. The question is if you can even zoom out more to be somebody who doesn't know anything and just be the middleman between investors and technology and people. For example, one of my acquaintances did this model. He was working for a VC, and then he decided he's going to become an entrepreneur. And what he did is he looked at what investors are investing in right now. He then wrote a business plan. Then he went to people that had a good resume, and then he told these people, look, I'm going to hire you. I want to give you great salary and shares. I can only hire you once we have VC money. So then three founders said, okay, I will sign up. I will be part of your team once you get the money. And then he went to the investors with a business plan, with the founding team, and he said, okay, we have the business plan in what's being funded right now. Great business idea. We have a great founding team. Give me the money. He got the money. And then he pretty much resigned from his job. So that's the only thing he did is he set up the business, putting founders together with investors by creating a business plan, putting founders together with investors. And he then kept something like 15% of the company for pretty much only doing the very, very basic setup. And then these founders worked on the business. So this is very much zoomed out because he doesn't have to be an expert in anything, only in getting founders and getting investment and bringing that together.
But if those founders later bankrupt the company, he's gonna be left with zero as well, right? So you would want them to become successful eventually, and it's not up to you, but it's more like up to them because and this was your idea, not their idea. So they're kind of working for your idea, and they have to make it successful for you to make money on this.
Oh, it's not really your idea. Basically, his concept was you don't have to have your own idea. You just look what people are investing in. Like right now, maybe I'm not sure what's right now the latest trend. Maybe AI. A few years ago was food. Everybody was investing in food delivery and mobility. Everybody was investing in car startups and Uber-like startups. And so many years back it was social gaming. So there are always certain windows of opportunities where investors are saying, okay, right now, this is what we need to invest in. And a lot of investors want to invest in the same kind of project. So at that point in time, you look at, okay, investors want to invest in this. Let's create a project. Let's get just a business plan, and let's get the founders, and let's get it started. And it's not really your idea. You just propose something and bring the founders and the capital together. I think it's brilliant. I mean, because then he went on to do, of course, many businesses. I don't know exactly which business was eventually successful, but of course he's able to do one business every 3 months because the only thing is he's doing the setup, and he doesn't have any capital to invest in. Generally you have to invest a lot of capital, or you have to invest your time. He doesn't invest neither capital nor time. He just brings people together.
I saw this kind of model in other contexts. For example, some famous author from the US, and you contact the author and be like, hey, would you like to publish your book also in Poland, in Polish? And he's like, yeah, sure, but I want 15% cut. And then you go to like some guy who can translate it, and would you like to translate it for 5% of the profits from this thing? I'm like, sure. And then you go to the publishing house and it's like, okay, I have this deal where you can do whatever you want, but you give us 30% of the profit and I will cover this other guys, and you just set it all up like this and once, and then you are basically a part of profit from this book like forever.
Exactly. Makes sense because a lot of people, what they do is when they do publish a book, they write their own content and then publish the book, and that would be the zoom in level. They take care of the content. But many times it's easier to take the zoom out level, but taking the arrangement that you did, not being responsible for the content, not being responsible for the product, not being responsible for the business, just zooming out and just bringing people together and profiting from it.
Just creating a deal, and yeah, even like getting someone else to translate it for a fee or something, for percentage in profits as well, so you don't have to risk anything. So sometimes adding value could be just by connecting things that already exist. For example, I used to send out a quote of the day, like inspirational, motivational quote of the day. And a lot of people signed up for that. And I was just finding like a quote from, I don't know, Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, whoever, and sending it by email once a day. And that gave me permission to email people once a day. And I could say, okay, this is the quote, but by the way, this is an interesting article, this is an interesting video, this is an interesting product, whatever, right? A book, affiliate marketing could work like that as well. So I wasn't really coming up with the quotes. They were not my quotes, but it was creating value that I was connecting interesting quotes with people who were open to receiving interesting quotes. So like making the connection sometimes is valuable. That's why we have like value added tax when you sell something, because the selling actually creates value. Someone gives you, I don't know, €1 for a bread, and for them the bread is worth more than €1, and for you €1 is worth more than the bread because you produce bread for like 50 cents or whatever, right? So just the transaction itself sometimes creates value, and you can get a cut of that.
Okay, Sebastian, I think it's about time for us to summarize what we talked about, what we learned today. Do you want to go?
No.
Okay, so let me summarize on a very basic level. We talked about how zooming out can be of an advantage. When you're zooming out, you're not dealing with the nitty-gritty of the business, but you're dealing with the broad picture, and you're having other people take care of the nitty-gritty. And sometimes you can be much, much more successful by zooming out than by working on the nitty-gritty. It's one way to work smart. We say it's for success, you need to be capable and you need to work hard, but in fact, maybe you need to work smart. And one way of working smart is to leverage other people, and not only other people, but also other people's money and technology. So leveraging technology, leveraging capital, and leveraging people can be considered as zooming out, because then you have to kind of work on the broader picture and you don't have to work on the nitty-gritty. The question is, then how can you do this? How can you work on the more broader picture? One thing is, you just don't get involved in a business where you do the nitty-gritty, maybe even a business where you don't know the nitty-gritty, meaning you're a barber and you do a logistics business, or you're a logistics guy and you do barber business, and you only focus on the strategic broad level. You don't focus on the actual implementation level. How can you do this? Maybe you get money from an investor. Maybe you have a creative recruitment process whereby you recruit not according to upfront salary, but you recruit according to future profit. Or you do it like my acquaintance, who first of all gets a founding team by saying, would you be willing to join in case we get VC money? And then he goes to the VC and says, here, this is the team that would, of course, be full-time once you invest. And he just brings capital and people together, is the creator of the business, but actually doesn't do anything in that business. Or you mentioned some other ways, like, for example, even doing Facebook ads. Just by doing the ads, I would say this is leveraging technology, because with these ads, you can reach millions of people, and you just set it up once, and then you don't have to work on it anymore. So there are different ways how you can leverage your time by leveraging technology, people, and capital. And that can bring you enormous amount of success and wealth. And you should always consider not only doing the content yourself, or doing the product yourself, or doing everything yourself, but consider leveraging other people, technology, and other people's money.
Yeah, that's a brilliant summary. One thing that came to my mind was also that you talked about a restaurant that is not a leveraged business, but you can make it a leveraged business if you do a franchise, like McDonald's or like Subway or whatever, right? Like you standardize everything and you just copy it across.
Exactly.
And this model of Michael Gerber, the thing that get a barber to create logistics company, I think it can work, but it's not going to give you like competitive advantage necessarily. Like you're not going to create the most advanced and innovative logistics company if you completely don't understand the business. So you can just like, hire some people, do some, but in a very competitive marketplace, you would want to not only have the expertise, but to have higher level of expertise than anyone in your marketplace if you are really to be like the most successful. Because I think this is like for like average businesses, just copy like normal businesses that have they don't have above average profits. And they're just like any other business that's not differentiating, that's not doing anything better. But if you want like the best business, you need to be like Elon Musk type of thing, I think.
Okay.
Great future.
Okay. All right. Great talk, Sebastian.
Yeah, thanks.
So let me start the recording.